Bud Abbott and Lou Costello made up one of the most popular comedic duos of Hollywood's golden age, but the two stars never really liked each other. In fact, the two comedic performers hated each other so much that their distaste inevitably led to them breaking up in 1957. Although the two never really got along, actor Errol Flynn claimed that a prank he pulled caused the two to call it quits for good. Join Facts First as we explore the prank that made Abbott and Costello never speak again. When it came to comedy in the 1940s, there were a few names quite as ubiquitous as Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. They began working together in the 1930s, though they would break up their working relationship by the end of the 50s. Over the course of these 2 decades, the two became superstars who could be seen and heard in different mediums. Each performer had a background in vaudeville, though they initially rose to prominence while working together as radio performers. Following this, the two became superstars on the cinema screen. In 1935, Abbott and Costello first started up their professional partnership. At the time, Bud Abbott was working with another partner who ended up getting sick. When Bud learned his partner wouldn't be able to perform, he had to find a replacement fast. Bud was already aware of Lou, as both were somewhat notable burlesque comedians. Bud asked Lou to come be his new partner, and the pair ended up having an incredible amount of chemistry. They were polar opposites when it came to their shapes and sizes, with Bud Abbott being tall and thin, and Lou Costello being short and fat. Early on, the duo realized Bud would be the straight man to Lou's slapstick abuse. Abbott and Costello's initial working relationship was entirely on the stage, though it was when the duo moved to radio in the late 30s that they began really taking the world by storm. Eventually, the duo's radio show became so popular, they were given the opportunity to make a film together. Audiences who had come to love the pair thanks to their radio appearances grew even more enamored of them once they transitioned to the screen. Their first feature film. The very first film to feature Abbott and Costello was 1940's One Night in the Tropics, which also served as the cinematic debut of the duo's iconic Who's on First routine. Bud and Lou had been honing the routine for years, as they had first begun performing it back during their days on the burlesque circuit. By the time the duo got the chance to perform it on the big screen, they had the routine down to a T. The pair's performance in their first feature film made them bigger stars than ever, though they maintained that immense amount of stardom over the course of the ensuing decade. Even after everything Abbott and Costello did afterwards, their Who's on First routine is the thing they're best known for. It's become so popular, it's arguably eclipsed the duo itself in terms of cultural ubiquity. The duo wasn't afraid to cash in on the success of the routine, and did it verbatim in another film. The second film to feature Abbott and Costello doing their Who's on First routine was The Naughty 90s, released in 1945. It was the 10-year anniversary of their working relationship, and they only had another decade left in them before their distaste for each other grew too strong. Things took a slightly sour turn for the duo in several ways entering into the 50s. Both performers had started to experience a significant amount of burnout from performing, whether it was because they were sick of performing the same old slapstick routines, or because they were sick of being around each other. More than anything, it seems it was Bud and Lou's growing distaste for each other that caused them to put an end to their time as a duo, though some have attributed the pair's 1957 breakup to more specific circumstances. Before we tell you more about it, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Bud and Lou's first falling out. Though Bud Abbott and Lou Costello didn't end their professional relationship for good until 1957, that wasn't the first time they needed a break from each other. In 1945, the duo had a falling out that some people claim planted the seeds of the pair breaking up years later. The incident involved Bud hiring a maid who previously worked for Lou. For whatever reason, Lou was incredibly upset about Bud hiring someone who had previously been an employee of his own, and it started a feud between the two. Lou went on to disparage his comedic partner in the press as a result of this falling out, claiming Bud was a drunk. Bud and Lou stopped being on speaking terms for a period of time after this incident, though they managed to pull things together and make it work as a comedic duo eventually. A big part of this came from the fact that they were both still under contract with the studio, and they were technically forced to continue working together for the time being. Bud and Lou's final falling out. While the maid incident may have planted the seeds of Bud Abbott and Lou Costello calling it quits on their professional relationship over a decade later, actor Errol Flynn claimed he was actually the one directly responsible for the duo's 1957 breakup. According to Errol, it was a prank he played on them in front of their families that caused the fight that went on to end their relationship. The prank involved Errol purposefully switching up some tapes at a party. When it came time to play whatever innocent tape the attendees were expecting, everyone at the party instead ended up being forced to view hardcore pornography. Unaware it was Errol who had caused the mix-up intentionally, Bud and Lou blamed each other for it. They became so furious with each other, they once again stopped being on speaking terms. However, this time, they were never on speaking terms again. Lou Costello was criminally obsessed with porn. Errol Flynn's account of this incident has never been substantiated, but the actor was adamant that's how things went down. It's uncertain why things got so heated between Abbott and Costello after this prank, but some other facts may put this incident, as well as the maid incident, in a slightly different context. According to FBI documents released in 2012, J. Edgar Hoover was incredibly interested in Lou Costello's apparent porn obsession. The FBI received word that Lou had an exceptionally large and private collection of porn films, some of which may not have been entirely legal. An informant alleged that Lou had upwards of 1,500 pornographic films that he would showcase to interested parties via a projector in his house. Other performers said to have significant porn collections included Red Skelton and George Raft, but no one's was bigger than Lou's. For one thing, Lou's massive porn collection may explain why the performer was so angry when his comedic partner decided to hire a maid that used to work for him. Perhaps Lou feared that the maid had become privy to information she would share with Bud. Lou's porn obsession also casts Errol Flynn's prank in a different light. If Lou liked to bring his friends over to watch his private collection of porns, perhaps Errol's prank was a knowing joke about that most people wouldn't have understood. It may explain why Bud and Lou got so angry as a result. Perhaps Lou feared Bud was trying to expose his porn fetish, and this may have driven him over the edge. It seems uncertain whether or not Bud and Lou ever found out it was Errol Flynn who caused the tape mix-up, or if that mix-up is really what caused the pair to break up. Their feud was far from the only personal problems they each suffered from. Bud suffered from alcoholism. He was also epileptic. Lou suffered frequently from rheumatic fever. Lou Costello died in 1959 from cancer, only 2 years after the breakup. Many years later, in 1974, Bud Abbott passed away from cancer. Now it's time to hear from you. What was the most surprising part of this story to hear about? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined Facts First as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of Facts First, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history. Plus, you can enjoy these videos completely ad-free.